All right, team. In today's episode, I want to show you how to lift the performance of your team without turning into someone you don't want to be. Because what I see all the time with consultancy owners is this like tension between wanting to be liked and wanting high standards in your business. And what happens is they end up, or consultancy owners end up tolerating behavior that they shouldn't, avoiding conversations they know they need to be having, and over time, it quietly drags the entire business down. So hi there, my name's Josh, and I spent 10 years as a director and shareholder of a 3 million engineering consultancy that we grew to a 30 million multidisciplinary consultancy across engineering, town planning, surveying, and architecture. And in today's episode, we're going to break this down into 3 parts. Firstly, why tolerating underperformance lowers the standard across your entire business. Secondly, why most consultancy owners avoid hard conversations until it's way too late. And thirdly, how to remove emotion from performance conversations and actually manage your team with clarity and consistency. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk to you about is tolerating underperformance sets the standard in your business. And I know that you know this logically, but I want to talk about this from an emotional point of view because I know that you know that what you tolerate in your business sets the culture. And that's saying, what you walk past, you accept, or whatever it is. I'm sure I did that a disservice. But what you tolerate in your business from a performance point of view, from a culture point of view, becomes the normal. No matter what you say as a founder or as a business owner around culture and values and that sort of stuff, if you tolerate poor performance, that becomes the culture. So every time that you let something slide, you let a behavior go unmanaged, you're avoiding a hard conversation, you're setting the standard for the rest of the team. Your team look up to you to set the standard, the culture, the values, and you have to live and breathe that. And you have to be strong enough to say, that's not okay, that's not accepted here, we don't tolerate that. Because high performers in your business, you want to have a team of high performers around you, but they notice when you don't pull someone up. High performers want to be in your business, they want to be challenged, they want to be part of an amazing culture, and you want high performers because that's how you build an amazing business. But they notice that stuff immediately, and it annoys them because they are here because of high standards, high culture. They want to be part of a high-performing team. And if you're allowing poor behavior to go unmanaged, it frustrates them and they will leave. Low performers, they just take it as permission to keep operating at that level. They're like, cool, he or she did nothing about that, so that's just how I'm going to continue to operate in the business. And so if you don't manage that, low performers just take that as permission to just keep operating the way that they are. And so it just creates this inconsistency across the business, inconsistency across delivery. It impacts clients, it impacts margins. Clients start saying, I don't want them on my projects, I want them because they suck, they're good. You start to have divide in the office because people don't want to work with each other because high performers know that if they get a low performer on their team, it's just going to drag everyone down and make the project run poorly. And so over time, your standard or what you've set in the business, it just drifts lower and lower without you even realizing it because you're not willing to have those hard conversations now. So this whole reframe is you don't rise to your standards, you actually fall to what you tolerate. So before we keep moving, I want you to ask yourself, if you've got someone in your business underperforming or impacting culture or talking to team or staff in a way that you don't want, I want you to ask yourself, what standard am I actually setting in this business? And what am I doing actually allowing this to continue? So you have to nip it in the bud, but just want you to ask yourself, what standard am I actually setting in the business by allowing this behavior to continue? Avoiding hard conversations is costing you more than you think. So we're human beings, we inherently want people to like us. We have this people-pleasing trait in our personality, and it's saying to us, don't have the hard conversation because what will they think? Don't call them out on their behavior because they might not like you. What happens if they leave if you crack down on them? But the people-pleasing behavior is just costing you so much more than you think in the business. Like, you're not an idiot. You started your business, you're a smart person, you know there's an issue with your team. You know there's someone that's not performing. You know that you need to have a hard conversation or call someone out or sit down and performance manage someone. But you keep delaying the conversation because of this people-pleasing trait that says, don't do that. Like, what if they don't like me? Or what if I have to get uncomfortable and have a hard conversation? I'm sure you've done this, but you tell yourself like, oh, look, I'll just, it'll either fix itself, or it might get better, or look, I'll just deal with that later. I'm too busy. Like, you come up with all these stories in your head around why it's a good idea to avoid that hard conversation or dealing with the issue instead of actually just fixing the issue. So the problem with not addressing this stuff early in your business is resentment builds. Like, frustration leads to team getting frustrated, it leaks into other areas of the business. It probably means profit margins are going to go down, so you get more stressed. You know that clients are a bit agitated with that person on your team because of their behavior. Fractions start to happen in your business. Like, this resentment just starts to build, and this frustration just starts to permeate into all other areas of your business. And I really don't think stuff goes away. I really don't think things resolve themselves. Like, usually the problem gets way worse than better. And meanwhile, because you've got your head in the sand and you're not addressing it, like, it's just impacting delivery, it's impacting team morale, it's impacting profit, because you're not addressing the problem that's like staring you in the face in the business. So I just want you to ask yourself, like, for you right now, what's more uncomfortable? Like a 20-minute conversation with a team member, or your business slowly slipping backwards because you avoided the hard conversation now? So team, what I want to talk to you about now is business performance improves when you remove the emotion and just get clear on what you need to do. So, you don't need to be a jerk about it. You just need to be clear. So a lot of the times, like, we allow emotions to impact ourselves as business owners, when in fact, as much as possible, we want to be running our business from the logical, rational part of our brain, but we just allow emotion to get in the way. So I've already talked about the people-pleasing parts of our personality that tell us stories about, don't have that hard conversation, I want to be liked, what happens if they don't like me? When you remove emotion and just get clear on what you want, from a business, the kind of values and culture that you want to create, even through to your home life. Like, if you're allowing a poor performer in your business to go to go unnoticed or to not deal with it, like, that's going to leak into margins. That's going to mean that you're taking less home for your family, like all those things. I want you to remove emotion, just get clear on what you need to do. Because, most performance issues in your business come from like a lack of clarity, not a lack of effort. Clear expectations with people on your team in terms of, this is what I expect from you, this is how I expect you to work, this is how I expect you to treat team with respect, this is how I expect you to treat me with respect, clients with respect, all those sorts of things. When you get very clear with your team around like what good looks like, what's expected of them and what's required of them, then it's very, very clear to them where the bumper lanes are on the bowling alley, and what's required of them to win in their role. And so then when they deviate from that, they know that they've done something wrong, and you can address that then. So a lot of times when you onboard a new team member or you're doing your quarterly performance reviews, you don't set very clear expectations, and you're like, oh no, it's cool, you just keep doing what you're doing. Like, how's that help anyone? So you want to set clear expectations, remove the guesswork from you and your team member, show them what good looks like, and show them what's required. And then when you're doing those regular check-ins with your team, like, it just creates, and you're reinforcing the culture, the values, the behavior you want to see, it just creates that level of accountability for that staff member or for your team in general without that like unneeded pressure. And then when someone does deviate, like, that feedback that you give them, it becomes factual. It's not emotional. Like, this is where you're at right now. This is what's expected, and we've talked about this, and this is what you need to do to get back in line with what's expected. It just becomes factual, not emotional. It becomes about you setting the standard, not about them as a person. So the key shift that I want you to think through here is you're not being harsh with someone, you're setting boundaries and you're just being clear with them. Clear standards, clear feedback, clear consequences if they don't meet that. And people on your team will actually respond to that and actually respect that. So something I always like to say to my boardroom clients is like, would you rather have an uncomfortable conversation or a hard conversation with a team member that lifts profit and lifts performance in your business and makes your business perform better? Or would you rather go home to your partner and explain why there's no profit in the business and that you need to take a pay cut to pay yourself less because there's no margins left over in the business? When you think about that, that helps you reframe your priorities. So, instead of asking yourself or your team member, like, asking yourself, how do I be nice to this person because I just want to be liked? Ask yourself, have I actually been clear enough on what good looks like, where this person stands, and have I set strong boundaries with that person? So a really good example of this is two incredible boardroom members, Debbie and Patrick. So Debbie and Patrick made a really, really important shift in their business. They got clear on their growth vision, but more importantly, they started stepping back and allowing key team members to step up and take on more ownership in their business. So that might sound simple to you and like a logical step, but it's where a lot of consultancy owners get stuck. They hold on to everything, they stay involved in every decision, and they wonder why the team doesn't step up. Because what Debbie and Patrick did really well was they created clarity and a pathway forward for their team. So they set clear expectations around who owns what in their team. They gave clear direction on where the business is going in terms of vision, future, all that sort of thing. And then they actually let the team step into that and take ownership. And that's the key. Team performance and performance in your business, it doesn't lift when you're hovering over everyone, you're accepting poor behavior, accepting poor standards. It lifts when people on your team know what's expected of them and they are trusted to deliver. So performance lifts when people have a North Star, they know what's expected of them, and the team know how they fit into the bigger picture, a piece of the puzzle, and they're not micromanaged the entire way through the process. The second piece here is stepping back. Stepping back, allowing the team to take that space, it forces the team to think for themselves, it forces them to make decisions for themselves, it builds confidence and capability over time. You end up with a business that's less reactive, more staff buy-in, less dependent on you as a founder, and far more consistent in terms of how it performs. So you don't have those poor performers anymore because you've got people who are stepping up and owning everything in the business. And so that's what Debbie and Patrick have done so well. They haven't been harder on the team. They've set clear expectations, they've set boundaries, but they've created the space for their team to step up. And that's a big part of how you lift performance across your business, is creating the space for your team to step up and knowing what's expected of them. Okay, to wrap up this episode, tolerating underperformance in your business, it lowers your standards. Avoiding hard conversations costs you way more than you think. And lifting team performance isn't about, being tougher, it's about being clearer. So you don't have to be a jerk about it, you just have to be super clear about what's expected and whether they're on track or not. And if there's something or someone in your business right now that you've been avoiding, I'd encourage you to address it now, today, as soon as you jump off this episode. Set the standard, have the conversation, and lead your team properly. So if you'd like to learn more about how to run a more efficient, a more profitable consultancy, increase your revenue, grow consistently, build a business that gives you the life and the business that you actually want, I'd love you to check out our 10 million plus consultancy roadmap training. So it's a step-by-step guide on how to grow your consultancy to that next revenue level, whether it's to 1 million, to 3, to 5, or to 10 million and beyond, and build a business that you can be proud of. So you'll find the link to that training below this episode. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode.